First things first, there is no such thing as too aggressive. Okay? If Melo wants to get physical and aggressive, then Melo's going to get physical and aggressive. The only time it's too much is when you start getting called for fouls.
No, there's never too aggressive. I would rather get called for fouls.
But you don't want a guy like Melo to foul out. And
you don't want him to foul out?
If he's fouling out, he's being too aggressive based on the refs reffing that particular game.
No. Disagree.
How?
I still think he's not being aggressive enough. It's up to the coach, first of all. If you get 4 or 5 fouls, pull you out of the game for a little while, sit you down, so you don't just get 6 fouls in the first quarter and you're out. You could be aggressive without fouling. But the fouls I'm talking about, I would go back to the way the Knicks used to play. Nobody scores in the paint.
You can't do that in today's NBA.
You can. Knock everyone on their ass.
You can't
Keep them
do
out
that
of the
in today's NBA. You know you can't. They literally video review for flagrant fouls now. Back then, you could knock a guy with you could take your elbow.
Listen, there are ways to do it without having
right
to.
in dude's chest when he went up, and it was just a foul. You can't do that anymore.
Listen, there are good, hard fouls in the NBA that don't have to be flagrant fouls.
Yes, there are, but they don't call the games the way they used to. You know this.
Okay, I'm telling you, you could still foul a guy on the way to the hoop and it not be called a flagrant. I don't let anybody score in the paint.
Going for the ball.
Listen, it's a different style of coaching, a different style of play. You're more of a spot-up three-point shooter. You've even said this. You used to just like to rain shots.
I've hated on the Knicks all year for shooting threes all game. You don't win like that. There is no way I've ever sat here and told you I am all about...
No, you've told me that your style of play. I'm talking me and you, not Knicks.
Oh, when I physically play the game of basketball, yes.
You're a spot-up shooter.
I'm a shooter, yes.
I'm a guy who plays in the low post. That's the difference in our mindsets right now. I'm a guy who... I'm okay with elbows. I'm okay with hitting a guy. I'm okay with trying to go for an arm if you can't hit the ball. No easy points in the paint. None. That's how you start working on your defense, in my opinion. No easy points, no easy baskets, no easy shots. Contest everything.
That's what coaches around the entire NBA
That's
league
being aggressive,
preach.
Though. That's what I'm talking about. That's aggressive.
You make it sound like you have like this, like, add a brand new idea. Every coach in the NBA preaches that, but you can't just. You're still getting called for fouls. Just
of course.
How it works.
Somebody's got to foul out every once in a while.
So what happens
I haven't
to the
seen
Knicks
a Knick foul out, and I can't even remember how long.
So what happens to the Knicks when Tyson Chandler fouls out of the game? They can't rebound against anybody.
They can't rebound with him either. He's the team's leading rebounder, but screw it, bring the old man Kurt Thomas off the bench to foul a few guys if you need to. You got a whole bench of guys you could send in, and maybe it's a little thuggish, maybe it's a little goonish, maybe it's a throwback to the 70s, but I'd take a guy like Kurt Thomas, I'd grab him and say, listen, you got 15 minutes in you tonight, I better see 5 fouls. Nobody scores in that paint. I don't care if you're 40.
And
you have guys you can use like that.
I have no issue with you saying protect the paint. What I'm trying to tell you, though, is you cannot afford a guy like a Melo or a guy like a Tyson Chandler to constantly be jumping up and trying to rock people that go up for layups. You have to be aggressive. No, but I'm not arguing with you on that.
No great defender is a guy who stands there and lets the ball come to him.
But your
guys like Bruce Bowen, guys like Jordan,
is determined by the referees. You can only go as aggressive as they're going to let you go. That's it. You can't. If a ref's going to let you hand check, you hand check. If a ref's going to let you reach, you reach. But if as soon as you go for a reach, you get called for a reach, you're like, all right, let me try again. You get called for a reach. You're not going to keep going for the reach because you're going to foul out on nonsense. I'm not arguing with the aggressiveness. Not at all. I wish basketball was the way it was in the early 90s still. Their fan base would be competitive with the NFL, in my opinion. They let them play baby ball. The playoffs are BS because guys get to drive the hoop and guys just move because they're like, well, I don't want to get a stupid foul. It's nonsense. I completely agree with that.
But again, that's why it's a style of coaching. That's why I'm not saying that you send Melo that every time LeBron drives the paint, Melo has to be the one who hacks him. But you bring in a guy like Kurt Thomas, you bring in a guy like Copeland, you bring in some of these other knuckleheads off the bench, and you say, listen, we may not want Melo to foul out, but you better foul out.
See,
nobody gets an easy basket.
And every team back, especially the 90s we're talking about, they all had that guy.
It starts with the starters, though. And the starters have to show the aggressiveness. They have to show the want. They have to show the defensive prowess. And that will bring the other guys off the bench to come in and do the same. I want Melo to stay as aggressive as he could possibly be. When was the last time you can remember sitting here when Melo fouled out of a game?
Probably as recently as I remember him getting a triple-double. Triple-doubles are really hard to get. I'm not knocking Carmelo.
No, but I'm saying
hard to get.
At all this year, I would almost want to go back and look. I don't think Carmelo's fouled out of more than maybe one game all year long. I used to see guys foul out of NBA games all the time.
Well, yeah.
Guys don't foul out anymore. They don't. Sometimes you need that spark. You see it in baseball games when a manager gets thrown out of a game. How many times does the team rally after that to come back and show you something? How many times in an NBA game have you seen a guy get thrown off the court and it sparks up his team and they go on a big run? It happens all the time in sports. Sometimes you need that little extra motivation, that little push, that little extra oomph. And I can say this about any team in the NBA. When have any of the big guys, when have any of the big stars, when has anybody fouled out of any games recently?
I mean,
when was the last time I saw Durant foul out? When was the last time I saw LeBron foul out? None of these guys foul out. None of these guys are that ultra aggressive on defense where they're trying that hard. Occasionally it'll happen. It doesn't seem to happen even occasionally anymore.
No, and the occasional superstar should foul out. But I do, at the same time, I'm not saying that it's a good idea or a bad idea. What I will say is I understand the NBA is set up like that. They know their superstars bring ratings. They don't want their superstars to foul out of games. So, A, their superstars will get away with things. B, coaches will be very, very cautious with their superstars and not bring them in until late in the game to try and have them for that final push to try and get the win. And then thirdly, yes, you're right. Most of the big superstars in this league don't really play that much defense anyway because they don't want to foul out.
And Five, I'm not saying Durant hasn't fouled out. I'm just saying it doesn't happen that often. If he's fouled out twice this year, I'd be surprised.
Yeah. But I think it's one of those things where it's like, as a fan, would you rather watch your superstar on your team play, or would you rather watch him sit on the bench because he fouled out? If you spent $150 on a ticket, would you rather watch him on the court?
This goes back to the argument of the Spurs sitting their big three. People pay to have tickets to the game. They pay to see the big three. The big three wasn't there. Guys sued over it. Tried to.
Which was just hysterical.
Stupid, hysterical, whatever you want to call it. But it's the same thing. Yeah, you're saying, oh, well, you don't want to see the big guys foul out. It's part of the game. It may happen. What happens if Derrick Rose blows out his knee? Nobody wants to see that. No fan wants to see that. They all want to pay to see Derrick Rose. But ish happens. It does.
Oh, and I completely agree with you. I won't argue with you at all on that one. All I'm trying to say is, and I feel like I'm aggravating you, and the worst part is I'm pretty much agreeing with everything you're saying. I really am, because I miss 90s basketball. I miss that physicalness of the game. I miss the fact that when a guy got the ball on the wing, his defender could press right on him. And I'm talking out by the three-point line and make him feel uncomfortable all the way out there. You do that now? You pretty much can't. I mean, unless you are a superstar player, You can't do that now because they don't want to see this other superstar not have the ability to maybe pull up for a three or not have the ability to go do something.
I disagree with you there that the refs are looking at it and going, oh, man, LeBron has the ball. Got to make sure nobody touches him so he can launch a three. I disagree there.
Oh,
I do.
It
depends on the ref. It depends on the game. Some of these refs have been around 10, 12, 15 years. Some of these guys have been around for a while. Now, maybe some of the newer guys haven't been. Maybe they call things a little differently. But there are games where I see chippiness go on. There are games I've watched this year where guys get a little more physical. It depends on the flow of the game. It depends on the refs. There's a lot of determining factors involved. Not every game are can you press up on somebody? And not every game can you just, not press up on somebody. It depends. You got to feel it out. But what I'm saying is I would rather my guy just stay aggressive all the time. Don't change your play based on the refs. Don't change your play based on anybody. You come out and play you. Let everybody else adjust to you.
Well, the refs don't need to adjust to anybody. You need to adjust to the refs. It's the bottom line of the game. It's just how the game works. It's the same thing in any other sport. Your refs determine how the game gets. You push, you test.
In basketball especially, refs are influenced by superstars. You know that. You know that more than in any other sport. More than
going
any
into
sport.
it, but they still have their way of calling a game.
More than any other sport.
Scout referees. Every league in every sport scouts the referees going into the game. You know what these refs are known for and what they're not known for. You know some of these refs will let you get away with 4 seconds in the paint instead of 3 seconds in the paint. You know some of these refs will let you body up with people a little bit more than other refs. That's just how it is. Every referee crew has their style.
Yeah, but you shouldn't change your style of play. You should play the same way all the time.
Well, you're gonna be aggressive on how you score and how you go about playing the game, but when it comes down to how you're gonna set a pick or how you're gonna try to box somebody out for a rebound or how you're gonna guard somebody on the perimeter, these things are influenced, not determined by, but influenced by the referees reffing the game. It is. There's nothing you can do. It's just like when you go into an NFL game. You know as an offensive lineman whether this line judge calls holding calls or he's a little more lenient. You know if you can hold on a little bit longer. You know as a corner if the back judges call pass interferences or let you hand check.
Yeah, but the NBA is a different animal. The NBA is different than the NFL. You can't compare the refs in the NBA to the refs in the NFL. You can't do it.
Shout out to my buddy Sean Oberg listening again with us. You're gonna love this. Everybody in our chat room that's listening, you guys will like this one. He wrote to me, the NBA is a sugar-coated cupcake compared to the 1990s.
It is.
It so is. Shout out to Sean Oberg.
It is, but I think part of the reason that is because guys aren't aggressive anymore on the defensive end. It's become an offensive game.
It has become an offensive game, and it's also about protecting the players and wanting them to last longer and make more money for the league and blah, blah, blah. But let's get back to what started this conversation because we've been going for almost 20 minutes. Let's wrap this up. Bottom line is, Carmelo Anthony is not too aggressive, right?
He's not aggressive enough. Keep being aggressive on both sides of the ball. It's more than just being aggressive on offense. It's being aggressive on defense.
What started this conversation was people saying out there that Carmelo Anthony was playing too aggressive. We both agree, no, he's not.